start streaming. I am going to show you guys an iPhone 8 Plus that has come in, and right out of the gate, it made Mark, who looked at it first, he wrote a note that just says, WTF, LOL, so you know it's going to be bad. What grabbed me about this particular case is that it was sent by a shop that has manufacturer authorization. And this just really made me want to do a video with this one point. The word authorized doesn't mean good. Authorized just means branded. And I think that as independent repair shops and just DIY customers, we should start using the right terms. Branded repair. When we fix an iPhone and it comes up saying you don't have the authorized screen, it means you don't have the branded screen. So there's branded parts and branded repair. That's what the word authorized really means. It doesn't mean good. Now, with that said, I'm going to stick that up there for this whole video. Authorized means branded. It doesn't mean good. And let's jump in and look at this iPhone 8 Plus. So this iPhone 8 Plus is here because, according to the note with permission to record for YouTube, our techs attempted to repair a SIM card reader on this device. Now that's a repair that you almost never need to do. The SIM tray here shouldn't do this. That's in the whatnot. That's in the whoops category right there. This guy almost never acts like this, right? So you got to work hard to get it to come off. This isn't a part that goes bad. It really doesn't. And if it does go bad, it's going to have mechanical damage. It's a really simple little dude. It's just got to connect to these couple of spots here on the motherboard. It's not a point of failure. So there's no reason for anybody to be messing around with this to begin with. But these guys decided to replace the SIM card reader, and in doing so, they said the flex connector on the board got damaged, which I think they're talking about the missing one here. So let's go ahead and grab a look-see under the microscope and follow along. Oh, where is the microscope view? Let's find it. There we go. Yeah, I think they're talking about the flex connector got damaged. Now, keep in mind, no one is authorized, not even me, nobody is authorized to actually do board repair on these devices. So the authorized shop is already gone off the rails as far as what they're authorized to do. So keep that in mind. Why do we care? Because authorized just means branded, somebody's brand. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily good. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's branded. So it says here that the flex connector got damaged. I see that. And then it says the loudspeaker got damaged. Now, looking for the loudspeaker is here inside the frame. There is no loudspeaker. The loudspeaker is gone. So it's completely just taken out. Now, the only way the loudspeaker is going to get damaged is somebody's trying to put hot air and do soldering without taking the board out of the frame. That is some crazy lazy right there. You can't do that. I mean, the battery is right there. So they're soldering on the board. They blew up the loudspeaker, and a component got moved over in the process. And by component got moved over in the process, I'm going to guess that they are talking about this little hurricane that came through here and made this board look like an island in Tonga. All right, the loudspeaker got damaged, component got moved. If you could correct the issue and complete the screen repair, it would be highly appreciated. Well, we're not going to do that. What we will do is quote them for data recovery, which they have since approved. So if you have done this much damage to your phone and you send it missing the loudspeaker and even the screen, you know, this is the authorized guys putting in a screen, you know, they've got damage to the home button connector on the screen. We are not going to just tidy up your screen replacement for you. This is too much damage. Look at this. This is the, I mean, look at this job. There's solder all over the place here and in there. Now, I don't want to throw any particular shop under the bus. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody is trying their best to recruit technicians and teach them how to do repair, and there's nothing wrong with that. My beef is with the word authorized and presenting to the public as if you're an authority using the word authorized, when what you really mean is that you have a certain brand, and any brand can be good or it can be bad. And in this case, at least these guys had the good sense to, when this nonsense happened, they probably sent it to some place local. When they did this, that they realized, man, we really messed up because somebody's data is in this phone. And right now with it like this, you're not going to be able to get the data out of the phone. So let's see if we can help this shop out. Everybody's going to learn a lesson here and correct this damage for the purpose of getting a backup, and they can buy this guy a new phone, which is what they should absolutely do. But I really didn't like seeing that this came from an authorized place. Okay, let's dive in, shall we? Let's go over and look and see what chat thinks of this. All right. Hello from Athens, Greece. Looks like a fun one. Some kind of error 13. I don't know error 13. Let's see. All right. Hello from Guam. Guam is very far away. It's almost halfway around the world, I think. All right, let's dive in and just kind of do a cleanup job. So what I'm going to do is just grab a matching iCloud locked 8 Plus that I use as a donor board, and we're just going to start moving stuff and taming this up a little bit. So I think I'm going to leave this SIM tray off. Let's take off some of this mess. This might have to take a bath before we can really see even what's going on. Let's get rid of some of the plastic and see if we can help this out. Now I'm going to do another video about this concept of OEM parts, because we're starting to see, especially with iPads, a lot of question about where do parts come from, what are good parts, how do you know what's good, do you need to get OEM parts, who has OEM parts, and trying to figure out what's going on. So we're gonna kind of stick with this theme. Let's clean up this area first, shall we? Let's get a little flux on here and let's just see if we can get these guys to go back home. So we'll use as a guide this 8 Plus, and it looks like in this area we're gonna have these 3 big caps and then this little resistor goes next to it. So let's clean that up. First and foremost, I work as a technician in an Apple Authorized repair show, and I don't know how somebody can mess up a phone this bad. I don't know how they can either. I'm gonna guess. How does it come to be this way? I'm gonna guess that this is something where someone took a phone to a local cheap board repair guy, hoping to help somebody out and try to fix a problem. And the mistake that the shop really made was not backing up the phone when they had the chance, because this didn't come in as phone doesn't turn on, apparently. It says it came in as a phone that had some kind of what they thought was a SIM tray issue. That seems pretty unlikely, but that's what it says. All right, let's see if we can get this. Let's try to make it so you guys can see, which is hard to do since I'm going to insist on having my authorized means branded. I think that the right to repair stuff, we would all do ourselves a pretty big favor if we started to use that terminology, branded. All right, so I'm going to delete the ones that I don't know. I'd have to actually measure these tiny little components in order to reuse them, if it's not clear exactly where they're supposed to go. Gotta make sure nobody's talking to each other that's not supposed to. All right, now let's see what we're actually missing. All right, let's see what we're missing right there. So we'll turn this guy around, and we're missing this diode, so we'll grab it. Diodes have to go in the same direction that they are on the board. So we've got to pay attention. There's a little line there, and that line's got to line up. All right, now let's bring back our bad board. Needs a little bit more flux. Now my mat moves up and down, so it's a little bit hard for you guys to see. It's going to go in and out of focus a bit. Okay, now let's see what's going on next to the tiny resistor. So let's try to focus it up when it's cooled down. All right, we're gonna look to see, is that guy in the right spot? We're missing two dudes there. Who are they? And do we really need to be bothered with them? Now it looks like these are two tiny capacitors, so I'm gonna leave those alone. And I'm gonna lay back this guy down. Lay down, buddy. Close enough. All right, so we'll say that's cleaned up. Now here's something that jumps out at me as in the what not to do. Let's look at that battery connector. That battery connector looks like it has a piece of metal in it. And I think having a piece of metal in it is not good. So where'd that even come from? Yeah, that is a tiny piece of some other battery connector. That looks like the middle pin there on the data line from some other connector, right? That connector looks like it's been replaced, so let's take a look at it on an angle so we can see whether or not it's actually on there. Yep, it seems to be okay. All right, now let's see. Now let's deal with what should we do next? Should we put on the LCD connector first? Probably. Let's do that. Although right now we could check to see whether or not this phone even looks like if it's gonna boot or not. Let's go ahead and see what chat has to say. Should we try to boot up the phone on DC power and see if it looks like it's actually gonna boot? Or should we harvest an LCD connector and move it over? Let's see what chat wants to do. I get very frustrated if any one step starts taking longer than 5 minutes. Zombie Ninja would not have the patience for this. Battery connector was modified. Now it's a PC. Yes, exactly. All right, check for shorts first. Check to see if it boots. Boot or scoot? I like that, Phil. Let's do it. Let's say boot or scoot. Because if it doesn't boot, then this might end up being a longer job than is suitable for the attention span that I have right now. And YouTube doesn't really like things to go on and on for too long. So let's see. Does it boot? Does it boot? Well, we're not going to see an image. Can it boot without this SIM tray? The SIM tray entirely missing. Answer, yes. This phone's not going to care about the SIM tray. What it is going to care about is whether or not somebody has overheated the EEPROM, which is in that guy, or let's look over here. Luckily, there's not a whole lot going on over there, although we do see signs of excess heat. See the little Mickey Mouse ears coming out of this underfilled RF chip. Does it boot? Come on, let's see, does it boot? If it does boot, then we'll continue on, put a lovely connector on it, and call it a day. Let's see, does it boot? Now, I'm not sure you guys will be able to tell if it boots or not, because we'll have to use the trust-based DC power supply since I didn't bother to plug it in. Okay, so I plugged in DC power and it's at 0, so that's good. Now I'll prompt it to boot up here, simulating the power button, see what happens. Prompt, 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 nothing happens. Prompt, prompt, prompt. Nothing happens at all. But I'm not convinced that I'm getting it prompted or not. Let's try to press in that battery connector a little bit better. And prompt. So I'm prompting here in the power button, and I don't see anything happening. That is going to really just make me question that battery connector because it looks a little potentially difficult to connect to. There's a lot of flux around here. Maybe the right thing to do for us is to put the LCD connector on and then give the bottom of this board a bath in the ultrasonic. So let's give it one more try just to clean out this connector from flux and give it a chance to actually make connection. Branded repair. That's our new word. Apple authorized, no more. Apple branded. Samsung branded. Manufacturer branded repair. Okay, that looks like that's in there. Now let's prompt it to boot up here and see, do we see any action? No, we do not. Let's prompt it to boot with a charge port and see if it will prompt to boot that way. If not, it's probably a bigger repair than what I have time for. But let's see. If that's true, then I'll probably like to start trying to make edited videos where we can do bigger repairs that just take too long for live streaming. Okay, let's see. Can we actually use this charge port? Will it work? Can I connect to it? Sort of. Okay. Ah! So covered with flux, so sticky. Let's see if we can prompt it to boot with a charge port. Let's find out. Let's see. Will it boot? All right. I haven't done a stream in a while, but I would sure like to do more of them. Oh, maybe it's the squid. Look at that squid. That squid has some kind of a piece of something on it. Oh yeah, that squid is dead. Dead squid needs to have a connector replacement. That is a fantastic job for a student project, isn't it? Squid repair. We should gather up all of the squids and all of the ones that need squid repair. Christy, that's a good idea, right?
Yep.
All right, are you on it? We need a big pile called Day 1. We're gonna learn how to fix these squids. All right, let's see. Let's check out this quick squid replacement. The iPad Rehab store says the squids are the least shitty of a shitty product. And that seems to be the case here. In fact, I feel like I already knew that one of these squids had an iPhone 810 battery connector that was hanging on by a thread, and I forgot about it, but I think it was that one. All right, let's prompt to boot. Prompt, prompt, prompt. All right, prompting to boot. So I'm prompting to boot over here on DC power with USB. Prompt, prompt, prompt. And I see activity, 300 milliamps, and it's moving around, 400, 200, 100, 300. That looks like it would produce an Apple logo. So we will say it may be booting, maybe it'll be boot looping, I'm not sure, but we should at least be able to see an Apple logo. So let's go ahead and carry on with our connector replacement. All right, so how are we gonna do that? Let's hold this board down with a heavy-duty piece of Omni-Vice. And let's try to make it so that it's a little bit more in focus. There we go. Let's harvest and replace a connector. All right, I'm in the mood for squid. Like eating up squid? That would absolutely horrify Betsy and Maisie. So I try to do it as much as possible. All right, so I'm gonna go down to hairdryer heat and clean up the little side dudes around here. Probably was a mistake to try to boot this phone. Now that I look closer at this remnants of what was once an LCD connector, it looks like there's some pads that are bridged together. And you don't want to put electricity into a phone that has pads bridged together like some of these are. Look at that. That's not good at all. All right, let's see. Calamari. Yes. Yeah, see those pads bridged together? That's not good. All right, now let's go through here. I hope that I don't understand the mistake of saying, let me take this giant hunk of metal, the SIM card reader, and I'm going to desolder it out of a phone, and I'm going to be too lazy to actually take the board out, and to come in there with hot air and burn up the connector. I mean, they probably burned the connector up with an iron, because look at this big blob of solder. How'd that get there? What's the story? I just wish that there was like some kind of security cam footage where I could see what really happened. What was going on there? So whoever did this definitely needs to come visit us for a good 5 days of training that'll learn you not to. You can fix some boards in the frame like an iPad mini, but not an iPhone 8 Plus. That's not one where you can put hot air on the board in the frame for any reason. And if you're trying to replace the SIM tray, you're probably not doing it right. Who can see another problem that we're going to have to fix after we get the LCD connector on here? Who can look at this and say, branded repair messed up something else that we're going to have to fix? Let's see, chat. I bet you can come up with it. Bunch of smart folks over there in chat. Let's see if you guys can come up with that while I prep up this for a connector. All right. Must have been trying to desolder it with a gigantic soldering tip. Must have been. I broke my iPhone 11 screen. Apple wanted $500 to fix it. I used my iPhone as a medical device. They offered to dispose of my perfectly good phone and make me buy a new one. $500. That's a lot. Someone asked me the other day when they called up and I answered the phone for data recovery, and they were just asking me like, well, what phone should I get next? And I don't know the answer to that. So what do you guys think? Chat, who loves their phone? Who says you should get this phone? I don't know the answer. A lot of the Android phones are also just as unrepairable. I mean, we see a lot of them for data recovery. Screens are expensive across the board. What is the framework laptop of phones? Like, what's the one that works pretty well and is repairable? All right, so connector area is cleaned up. I'm going to see what chat says about what should be the recommendation. Who loves their phone? And see if you guys noticed what was wrong with this board that we're going to have to fix next. Let's see. It's hard to see. Well, that stinks. All right. Well, we'll give you another chance, but first I'm going to harvest this connector. So let's take this connector. Let's see if we can clean it out a little bit. This is from my donor board. And rather than go hunt around for a brand new 8 Plus LCD connector, I'm just going to steal this one. Do you think that we can do it? Can we use hot air to take this connector off and actually move it over and use it on the other board without destroying the connector? Yee! We'll find out. Can we do it while live streaming to YouTube in front of the whole world? What do you think, chat? Am I about to embarrass myself horribly by trying to take off this connector when we all know what's really going to happen? It's just going to become destroyed and completely just bent and gnarled up and unusable. Or not. Let's see. Let's heat it up a little bit. Let's see. How much can this connector take? I think it can take a little bit of heat. And we're going to heat it up and just grab it right off. Nice and easy. Everything is going to go just perfectly. No problems. Can we take it? Almost. Can we take it? Yeah! Boom! There it is. Look at that beautiful connector, ready for its new home on an Apple Authorized board. However, I am not authorized to put it on there, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because Apple is not the boss of me. All right, so let's get this on there. All right, chat, do you see, after we get the connector, what problem are we going to have? What do you predict from your experience fixing these things? All right. Oh, let's see. Who had a good phone recommendation? I haven't had any issues with an S8 other than the USB-C port getting touchy after 4 years. The non-sandwich Samsung Galaxy models or a Pixel 5 or 6, but don't bend them. Okay. What else is wrong after we put the connector on? What is the next problem we're going to have? Who can tell me? Just from what you can see right here. All right, let's see. Let's kind of tack this on a little bit first. We're going to tack it on one side then the other with the Yield mini hot tweezers, and then we'll put some hot air on it. All right, let's see. How does this thing go? Down here. Something like that. We'll just do a couple of those pins and it's tacked into place. So let's put some hot air and make it go where it's supposed to go and be nice. And see if we can do a transplant. Slightly easier than doing a transplant on a person. Just doing a little LCD connector. I see discoloration on that transistor. Discoloration. I don't know about discoloration. All right, now let's take a look on an angle and see how many of these. We gotta move it up a little bit. We gotta move it up one tiny notch. Let's see. I've heard of backseat gamers, never heard of backseat repair techs. Oh, that's what YouTube live stream is all about. Backseat. I mean, what's fun about watching these things? You gotta notice it's live. There could be any number of things that I might overlook that you can see and alert me to. This is somebody's data. You can be a part of the repair. You can help out. You can tell me when I'm making terrible mistakes. All right. We're going to touch this up a little bit. I find that when I'm doing connectors, I always like to come by and do a lot of these pins by hand in the end. I like to touch them up with the good old mini hot tweezers because you can't really quite get enough solder on the pads in advance to be sure that you're making good connections on all these. Yeah, you probably can't see that. And then once I do one side, sometimes I will move the entire connector over. I just touched it myself. I'll move the entire connector over to the other side to do the other one. All right, now what's the thing that we need to fix? And the answer is not this part of the connector that I just touched with the iron. What do we need to fix? Hint. Somewhere around here. What is it? All right, I think I've got a couple of pins that I need to go back to. Let's see. Straight is great, but the angle is always going to tell you the truth. Everybody's touching on that side. And not everybody is touching on that side. I'm going to move this guy over a little bit so that I can get that back side. And let's see. Let's check in with chat to see if you guys figured it out. Battery MOSFET. You rock, Daniel, rock. You got it. Tell us, Daniel, about the battery MOSFET and what does it mean about fixing the battery MOSFET? What is that? What happens if we don't fix it? What is going to be the fault? There, moved it over a little bit. All right, now we can work on this other side of the connector with plenty of clearance. That looks fine, fine, fine. And we'll dry this guy off here. And get in there. Oh, not quite separated there. Still not quite separated. No battery percentage. Yeah, if you can't talk to the battery, then it might boot up, but it will have a wrong battery percentage because it can't hear the battery. And more importantly for data recovery, it will have a 3-minute reboot loop. And that would be very unfortunate. All right, we gotta still clear 2 little bridges under there. 1, 2. I'm not super happy with this side of it. Let's make sure we're doing okay over here. I want to make sure every pin is making good contact. Making good contact with just its one pad and nobody else. So you can put these on with just hot air, but when you do that, then sometimes they don't, they're kind of weak. And when you put a screen in there, it'll work. But when you pull the screen out, the whole connector rips right off the board. All right, let me look close at that. This one doesn't quite look exactly how I'd like it to look down here in this corner. Yikes. Let's see if we can fix that. What made the tech rip out this connector? Well, I think he ripped it out because he was trying to solder whatever he was trying to do with the SIM tray. I think he he ended up getting heat on the loudspeaker, which is also down here in the phone, and then decided to, try and fix it, or I don't know what. Maybe it was the battery connector messing around here, was probably the heat on the loudspeaker. I want to know what made the tech give up. Like, he was pretty deep into it. All right, now if we were smart, we would put this in ultrasonic before trying to do anything else, and then we would just diode mode here in the connector. All right, so let's see about our other known problem that we're aware of. We have to come up with a plan for our missing battery data MOSFET. All right, joining late. Authorized, let them send it to the depot. My wife's phone probably needs a new charge port and it's under AppleCare, but I don't want a refurb. Well, you're gonna get a refurb because that's within their contract to do. This is data recovery though, so we can't do that because you're not gonna get your same phone back. All right, let's see. So we're missing over here, we're missing a diode that we're gonna leave off. And then here we're missing the other battery data MOSFET. And then this one, usually if that one's gone, this one's damaged, but we'll see. So because of that tiny little tight clearance, I think I'm going to fix that with a jumper. We still have a problem here at our LCD connector. I might have to get out the micro pencil to correct it. All right, to correct this, I gotta pull it out to where you guys may not be able to see it. I just gotta get better clearance. All right, I'm holding it at an angle right on the side of the table. But I gotta make sure that these pins are not talking to anybody else. And that one still is. There we go. So when you've got bridges, the antidote to all bridges is flux and heat. And in these tiny quarters, it's hard to get enough heat. So if you say, well, let's get something smaller, like the micro pencil, well, then you're gonna have even more of the problem that you're trying to solve. All right, that looks okay, I'm happy with that. So you gotta put the biggest heat that you can in there, not the smallest. Long screw problem. I see a little bit of long screw damage in here, but I'm hoping that that's no big deal. So we do have, you're absolutely right, as you look in that screw hole. See that? Somebody's had the wrong screw in there. Surprise, surprise. When I took this board out, maybe half of the screws were correct, and the other half were just, flexes were up over top of the board that should be under it, and all kinds of nonsense. Missing screws, missing a lot of stuff. But you're right, there's long screw damage. We're gonna ignore that, and looking in the other ones, none there, nothing up there. All right, so our next problem is right here. And I think somebody mentioned discoloration. Maybe you were talking about this capacitor, and that's just some dried flux. So we'll just clear that off. All right, so now let's go make a plan for this. How are we gonna get the data out of this board? Now I'm gonna do something that's definitely unauthorized. I'm not gonna simply replace that with another MOSFET because it's going to be even easier to do something else. So let's take a look at ZXW and I'll show you what we're talking about. So ZXW in the good old iPhone 8 Plus, here it is. And please restart. No. Who else is using ZXW?
I think this back computer is about to close out.
It should be able to steal it from that back computer, unless there's a problem. What happens if I don't restart it? It's not gonna like that. All right, we have to restart ZXW, which may be hard on the stream, but we'll see if we can do it. Let's see. Where is it? Where are you, ZXW? Can I search for you? ZXQW. ZXW. Now, if you don't have ZXW, you can get ZXW from iPadRehab.store. Search for ZXW, and you too can see where everything is connected to everything else on all of these boards. Oh, there's my shortcut for ZXW right there. Now we got to bring it back and plug it back into the streaming software. Uh-oh, it's freaking out. No, 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 no. Let's do this. Let's say yes. Come on, ZXW, you can boot. You can show the world what to do about this poor little missing battery data MOSFET. Oh, here we go. Uh-oh. No updates. None of that. Let's try it again. What? No. Don't tell me that my shortcut, do you want to delete this shortcut? No, I don't. No. Boo. Now we have to go on a bigger hunt for ZXW because it deleted itself. That sucks. Oh, the joys. I really feel like it was working on this computer today, but maybe not. Oh, ZXW, where can I find you? This is the most boring part of live streaming. Locating on a computer a missing ZXW. So the only one that's still on this computer is 3.3, and that may not work. We'll find out. 3.3, are you still gonna work? If not, we're gonna have to just go over here. Nope, it's not gonna work. All right. I am gonna look it up over here and tell you. Oh, wait, it might work. It might work over here. iPhone 8 Plus. I can see it. All right. Yay, you can see it. It is working. Good job, ZXW. I knew you could do it. You're so good. All right, let's zoom in here and see what we're talking about. All right, so on our board, we have the topmost one of these little three dotted MOSFETs, but we're missing this one here, Q3200. So let's see, what does it do? Q3200 is a MOSFET, and it is going to connect together these two lines. It's going to connect together I2C, SMC, SDAR, which is one of the battery data lines going to the system, and it's going to connect that with this one here, the I2C, SMC, VI gas gauge SDA, which goes to the connector. So when this MOSFET is in place, those two lines are going to talk to each other. And they're going to do that as long as you have PP1V8S2 present. Now, PP1V8S2 is a brainstem rail. It's one of the first things that the phone does when you turn it on. So that rail is always going to be there. So we don't really need to make the connection from the battery data onto the CPU dependent on the presence of PP1V8 because it's always going to be there. What does all that mean? That means that we can just skip the missing guy by doing the purpose of this MOSFET ourselves, which is to connect from right here. Battery data should connect all the way through from 0.3 to point 2, which is going to take it continuing on all the way to the system, right? Where it's gonna go wherever it goes. It goes over here, probably to Tigris, or maybe it doesn't do that in the 8. It's gonna go probably to the CPU or some resistor, wherever it goes. To the system. Oh yeah, there it is. There to the CPU. Ding, there we go. So we're gonna make that connection ourselves. All right, so on this bottom one, we are just gonna connect 2 and 3, 2 and 3. We're gonna connect 2 and 3 with a wire because we're unauthorized, and that's the kind of stuff that unauthorized people do. Me and whoever else worked on this board, we're a team now, and I'm going to follow in the footsteps. This is what I think that my colleague that worked on this board first would want me to do. The kind of guy that solders on boards without taking them out of the frame, blows up loudspeakers. He would definitely want me to just use this tiny piece of braid. I think that he would say I would be perfectly authorized to do that. And so I will, because it's super easy. There we go. So now we have used a wire to connect 2 and 3. Now, I don't know if that actually made a connection or not. It looks like it did, but I can't tell for sure. Only my multimeter can tell me. And only my multimeter can tell me if this existing MOSFET, the one sitting right there, looks like it's okay, but like I said, a lot of times when the bottom one is ripped off, the top one is also damaged. This is a job for electricity to tell us. All right, so we're gonna go diode mode over here. We're gonna diode mode that bottom one and see if we get the normal value, which is 0.7, and we do. That tells us that the top MOSFET is working. So now we're going to diode mode the battery connector down here and see, is it open? No, 0.3. 0.3 is correct when you have jumped across the MOSFET. So that problem is also solved. Now let's go back and look at this side of our sad little connector. Yeah, the feet, it's not the greatest connector, but it is there. It is present. All of its feet are working. We should definitely benefit from a bath in the ultrasonic, but since we just want to see if we can get the data out of this phone with the stuff we've done so far, will it boot up? Let's take a stab. Should we put a screen on it? See if it boots. What do you think, chat? Let's see. I'm going to clean this out and let you guys. Vladimir, 200 rubles. Dr. Jones, thank you for all the enlightening. You are welcome. Thanks for 200 rubles from all the way from across the big pond. I appreciate it. All right, we got to get a little bit of gunk out of here. All right. Long time no see. Yes. All right. Let's see. Should we see if it's ready to stick a screen in this pretty sad little beat up rushed connector? There is something zen-like about connectors. Like if this was going to be a phone again, you know, who knows what its original problem, what would it take for this to be a phone again? You'd have to get it to boot like we are now. You'd have to get it to be able to, oh man, that's pretty bad. You have to see whether or not it had its original problem, which is probably searching no service. So to do that, you'd have to get another SIM tray, one that's not as beat up as this one that it came with. Look at this. Travesty. That's might as well be in there upside down. And then you'd have to solder the inside part of this, which isn't that big of a deal. These little inside feet would have to touch their corresponding pads, but one of them's missing. And that one is actually a big deal because you can see the tiny little trace that it goes to. So for that one, you'd have to solder to that or some sort of a test point and get that to connect to the SIM tray. And you'd have to do that in a way that didn't bother the insertion of a SIM card. So that's a challenge. You'd have to do all that just to be able to test to see All right, what was the original problem? And the original problem may well be that it has a bad baseband chip, which is not replaceable, right? This one is replaceable, the baseband power chip, but it might have a bad Qualcomm CPU, and there's nothing you can do. So a lot of work just to be a phone again. Thankfully, we are just trying to get the data out of this phone so that the first shop can do the right thing and buy them an authorized, brand new, refurbished phone. It's going to be refurbished by the same people, though, so your luck may vary. All right, let's go to the hand cam then and move this aside. Here we are now. All right, this would be great if it would turn on right away and not give me a hard time and not have me have to go back and redo that connector a bunch of times. I know that that connector is pretty unauthorized right now, but at least it's a step up. We're at least gonna be putting in a screen that has all of its pins, unlike the one that it came with. All right, here goes nothing. I should diode mode in this connector just to make sure that nothing's bridged and everything's connected. But I am too lazy. I am not authorized to diode mode. I am going to just see what happens right now. All right, so far, we have connected it to power. We have plugged in a screen, and now the sad moment of truth. We're gonna prompt it to boot and see, does it do anything? Can we see anything? I don't see anything, that's not good. Come on, boot, mofo. Show me something on the screen. Oh, it looks like it's gonna be a day for diode moding because I don't see anything on the screen and I do see some electrical activity over there. That's not good. That means my connector is a giant fail. Let's do check to see if we actually have image. I don't think so. I think that we have, uh-oh, that thing's getting hot when it tries to boot up. There's something it doesn't like. We're going to check. Let's peel apart this screen and see if we can see image, even though we don't have backlit. Let's unscrew another one of these over here. And see. I betcha that this phone is pretty booting. It looks like it's booting. All right, I'm going to use my own microscope light. Do we see anything? No, we don't. No display. Boo, hiss. Boo, boo, fail. All right, let's see. Can we get this out of here? Hopefully that was actually connected in there. All right, now before we diode mode, which is a pain, let's just look at the feed of this thing and see if we can see which one of these guys is not making good contact. All right, let's see. Looks terrible, but maybe that one guy is, that's our only possible chance is this guy right here. That guy could be open. Let's see. Could be that guy. Yeah. All right. We got a problem right there. Woohoo. All right. Let's doctor him up. Right there, buddy. You'll be fine. We're going to just... Now we really have a question of whether or not we want to go diode mode this whole thing before we just stick another screen in it. What would you do? Which one was it? I already forgot. One of these guys. Let's make it so we can see. Was it you? Let's get these guys back on. And now Those are bridged together. It might have been this guy though. All right, now we gotta unbridge them. All right, I think I'm gonna heat it up because that side is a little bit whack. All right, let's heat this up and get it to behave a little bit better. All right, now let me look on the side and see, does everybody have its feet touching? It does look like it. All right. Let's clean it up. All right, chat, should we diode mode or not? Reverse diode test. Reverse diode test. I'm gonna say we could. Diode mode works just fine for telling you whether or not you have connection. Now there's one line, the PN5V7 line, where your diode mode test will come up as too high to measure. So it'll say OL. It's not actually open, it's just over the limit, because for that particular line, it happens to have a very high natural resistance to ground. So for a line like that, you can switch your leads and do black probe on ground, and then you'll see that it's actually not open at all, and you'll get a relatively normal diode mode reading. I think I'm gonna go with sticking a screen in here again. All right, let's see. Hi, Jessica, thanks for the videos. You've inspired me to start collecting phones to learn repair. And I've already torn down an S10e, an S6 Edge, and waiting on parts. The S6 is next on the list. That is fantastic. I love to hear that. I hope that they all go well for you and that you learn a lot. Remember, the less you fix, the more you learn. So it's a win either way. All right, let's just stick a screen on here because messing with this that was 0.2 Rossmann units of flux. Does Lewis still use a lot of flux? Does Lewis still solder? Let's see. I miss Lewis. I always thought it was the most fun when we would teach the course together and fix stuff after hours. That was always a lot of fun. That is definitely fun. Those were the days. That was a long time ago, though. All right. Let's see. Let's see. All right, show me an Apple logo. Come on. Let's prompt it to boot. Is it prompting to boot? It is, but I don't see anything, which means we're gonna have to dial. Oh, wait. I see a backlight. I see a backlight. I see a backlight, but I see no image. That means the screen is detected, but we don't have image, which is almost certainly this crappy connector. So I think it is time for me to diode mode and see exactly what the problem is. But I'm not going to diode mode an 8 Plus without the help of my friend, the iBridge. So let's do that. He made a video yesterday. Did he? All right. Let me grab the iBridge. Where are you, iBridge? Somewhere nearby. The unauthorized iBridge will help us fix this board. There we go, 8 Plus. Well, I haven't had to use one of these in a while. All right. So you guys know the iBridge, available at iPadRehab.store. This doohickey is so great for when you need to figure out which one of your connector pins is not down, or is it something where one of these little tiny components that look okay is actually floated up because there's been a ton of work in this area, both by me and my authorized friend that worked on this board before I ever saw it. All right, so we're gonna plug in. Are you able to see that? I forgot what this is looking at. Yeah, there we go. We're gonna plug in the iBridge. Now we don't need to plug in the one for the home button because we're just gonna be worried about the LCD. And let's see what happens when we diode mode this sucker. So I love the iBridge because the diode mode readings are written right on there and you can see what's up in a hurry. All right, so I'm gonna park a probe on ground and OL 0.4, close enough. Now this is the one, see how it says 1,810, that's a really high number compared to every other number. And I'm getting OL, but that just might mean over the limit. So this is one where I'm gonna swap the probes and I'm gonna put black probe. Here's my black probe on ground. Black probe on ground, and let's see, is it open? Ah, it is open. Well, that is unexpected. So when you measure in both directions, you should get a reading. And I'm not. All right, so that's a problem. So we'll come back to that one. Let's keep going down the road. All right, this one, 0.4, close enough, 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 close enough. And then these are the backlight ones. Since we just saw backlight, we know these ones are all okay. But we'll just go down the row anyway. All right, everything's fine on that side. Switching over, fine, 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 fine. That seems a little bit high, 0.55, but all right. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, okay. All right. Okay, so the only problem that we can find is back up here with that same old, what is that though? That line isn't what I would expect it to be. I'm gonna have to look it up. 3D, what? I don't know what it's going to then. All right, so this line, if it has anything to do with image, is problematic, but everything else seems to be okay. I2C 3D, that's not what I expected it to be. Let's look it up. Let's actually do something else. Let's go to the connector itself and say, do we actually have a problem here? OL. 0.3, and that third pin, OL. And then the other way, OL. All right, let's look up on ZXW and see what does that third pin do? Because I thought it was 5v7 image, but I might be thinking about iPhone 7. I'm not sure. Let's go find out. Here it is, this guy here. I2C touch to Mamba clock. And that, is it missing this resistor? I'm not sure. Let's go back to our other board and see what is it supposed to be and whether or not it's really a big deal. Does it have anything to do with image? All right, so back here on our other board, it's also open. So we're gonna say, oh well, and we're gonna say we don't care about that. All right, so then there's no reason why this board shouldn't be able to make image. Let's look around here by image power and see why can't it make an image? What is the deal? And one of the things I do when I'm troubleshooting an 8+ with no image is I like to use the eye socket because the eye socket is just, it kind of stretches out the connector a little bit. Let's close this down. All right, so far we can't determine any reason that's really jumping out at us why this phone wouldn't have image. So let's connect the screen through the eye socket, and then we'll at least be able to determine whether or not we're getting our image voltages. So let's do that. And maybe we'll just automatically get image because our eye socket seems to make like a better connection in the connector. All right, so then we'll come over here and plug the screen in. Okay. Now we'll go to the hand cam and see what happens now. I really should get in the habit of recording videos. Oh no, it's really hard to plug in the battery and the charge port. If I recorded a video when I was streaming it, then it would make more sense to make an edited video that makes sense, don't you think? No! Let me plug in the battery and the eye socket at the same time. Come on, you could do it. Boo! Boo, boo. I'm not sure I'll be able to make this connection. Come on, eye socket. This thing really doesn't want me to connect both. Boo! All right, let's try, how about an actual battery? Will that fit? Could it possibly fit? Kind of. All right, that looks like maybe that's connected. We'll find out though. We're gonna plug it in by USB. And if the USB says that the phone is charging, then we'll know that the battery's plugged in. All right, let's see. Does USB say that it's charging? No, it does not. And do we see any kind of image? No, we do not. And do we see any kind of backlight? No, we do not, which points to nothing happening and that this phone is not prompted to boot. Oh, it's because it's not plugged in. All right, now let's see. Do we see it charging? Yes. Woo! Look at that, guys. Do we see image? Yes, we do. Oh my gosh. It is charging, so we know the battery is connected and everything's connected because we can see the Apple logo. Will it boot up so that we can recover data and then send it back to the authorized shop to get this guy a new phone, which is what really needs to happen here. Branded shop. Yay! All right. Yay! We have touch. Let's see. Do we have this guy's correct passcode? Let's see. Permission to record, yes, great. Yay! Success! Hooray! Hoorah! There is a path to data recovery. For fun, I want to see if it like even knows its IMEI. It can read its own IMEI, so that's good. So maybe this one is one that could be turned back into a phone again. But that's a lot of work. So if we wanted it to be a phone again, then you'd have to get another undamaged SIM tray holder, desolder it, resolder it over here, and deal with your missing SIM tray pad. And you're gonna have to connect that by rebuilding that pad. I would probably use the solder lugs to do that. Rebuild that pad, get a new SIM tray on there, put an active SIM in it, talk to the customer, make sure that it's not blacklisted by now or whatever else. You would have to go down a whole road to try to do RF troubleshooting, which is something that we usually avoid. So there you go. Authorized repair fail, unauthorized, unbranded success. And the point of this whole video is just, I want to start using the word branded instead of authorized. So when you have a customer and you put in a battery and it says, hey, this isn't the branded battery, that you just kind of tell them. It's just like HP printer ink is branded HP printer ink, but nobody cares about that. So you want to encourage people to pay attention to where they're getting their service and that they don't need branded service. And where are they getting their parts? Branded parts are good, right? They've been through the quality control of the manufacturer, but when you're pairing branded parts with branded service, sometimes it leads to things like this. So branded is what authorized means. Authorized doesn't mean good. It just means branded. That's it. And that's the message for today. Hopefully you guys will stick around for the next time that we stream. And let us know in the comments if you like these long, ambling, don't have half the stuff streams, or would you prefer to see this same content edited down into a 8-minute video where you could just see how it all goes together. Let me know, and we will make the content that you guys are wanting to see.